Welcome to Fun to Be Fit Over 50, real health and wellness that fits your real life. My name is Carol Denman, and this is where knowledge meets action. You already know what to do. Now let's talk about actually doing it. Hey everyone, it's Carol. I just finished the conversation with Scott, and I have to be honest with you. I almost didn't edit this one down. I could have let the whole thing run. He dropped so much wisdom that I kept thinking, I need people to hear this. Scott came to me almost 20 years ago. He was 45, out of shape, overweight, stressed out from his business, and his cholesterol was too high. He had been an athlete when he was younger, but somewhere along the way, like so many of us, he got lost. Here's what I really want you to listen for in this interview. Scott told me something that stopped me in my tracks. He said he looked at his calendar and it was full of meetings, full of obligations, full of everyone else in his life, his family, his clients, his responsibilities. Everyone had a slot in his calendar, except him. He had put himself in the cracks, the if you have time at the end of the day spot, and that never came. So the biggest takeaway from this conversation, the thing I hope you carry with you, is that Scott realized that he had to start valuing himself enough to put himself on his own calendar. Not last, not as an afterthought, but right there, blocked out, non-negotiable. And that one shift, it changed everything. He went on to do things he'd never thought possible, including standing on a stage in a competition, something he swore he would never do, ever. But more importantly, 20 years later, at 65, he's still fit, he's still active, still walking every night, and still showing up for himself. So if you've ever looked at your own calendar and seen everyone else's name but yours, this one's for you. Here's Scott. Scott, you first came to me back in 2006 as a 45-year-old who wasn't working out and wasn't eating healthy. What finally made you come through the door?
Well, when I think back to that time, 2006, 20 years ago, and put myself back where I was, I think I just got to a stage or a point in my life where I think I was lost as far as my health goes. And I just felt like I wasn't in a good place. From what I remember kind of going back in time, I was out of shape. I felt like I was overweight. I was too heavy. I didn't like how I looked. I didn't feel like I had the energy level that I wanted to have or that I was used to having maybe in the past. I think it was a combination of my business and a lot of stress in my life at the time. And certainly some of it was just father time, I guess, catching up with me and coming to the realization that I wasn't on a good path, that I was lost. I didn't know really who to turn to or what to do. I just had a growing level of awareness and recognition that I had a problem on my hands. My cholesterol was too high. I had gone to the doctor at that point. And as I looked kind of into the future, I didn't see a good outcome. I grew increasingly concerned about where I was headed. And I just knew that I needed to kind of do something about it. So it just really hit me kind of all at once. And I think you get to a certain point where you get to a point where you realize that, you accept that, and then you know that you need help. And that's when I found you. Your place there was right down the hill from my office. It was a few minutes away. And I just remember calling up and showing up. And that's how it really kicked off, is just seeking help, basically.
Yeah.
And I felt like if I could just find the right place and the right people and just turn myself over to whatever process, that was my mindset from what I remember. But I think the main thing was just the need to change and that I was trying to open my mind to that and to be committed to whatever that process turned out to be. So I think that helped me in hindsight. Is just the other thing I had was I felt like I had not made myself a priority for too long.
Mhm.
And I really needed to change that. I remember looking at my calendar and it was full of activities, but it was really full of activities and everybody else in my life. And I think for a lot of years, I had really committed at a business, professional level, and at a personal level to put everybody else first.
Mhm.
And I think when you do that long enough that it takes a toll on you, and it really it hit me upside the head that you just can't do that. You can't always put everybody else first and yourself last. So really the change that I made was I said, I've got to now put myself in my calendar. Instead of just putting me if I had time at the end of the day or during the week, and that never happened, I had to really say, I've got to schedule this out. Time for me and taking care of myself, taking care of my health, going to the gym and doing this. For me, that was a real key turnaround is really trying to focus more on myself, because I realized that if I didn't do that, that in the long run, I wasn't going to be good to anybody. I wasn't going to be able to be functioning at a high level, which I needed to, and I wasn't going to, uh, I wasn't going to, as long as I really wanted needed to be for everybody around me. So I just realized I've got to change this as far as my priorities.
That's wonderful. That's so perfect because that is truly, I think, what most people struggle with is that we just want to help and be there for the people we love in our lives, but that does put ourselves on the back burner. And that, so you transformed so much that we actually encouraged you to do a competition. You told me recently that that feeling of euphoria on stage was something you've never felt before and never have since. Can you describe that moment and why it stuck with you?
Yeah, it was great kind of remembering that again, because I remember where I started. And I can remember after getting on a program, working out with you and your team, doing the circuit training, doing the one-on-one coaching and all of that, and seeing some progress. And after a little bit of time, I remember when you and Ben even floated the idea that, hey, we think that you could do a competition and be good
Mhm.
at it. And I remember hearing that, and I remember, first of all, I was surprised and shocked, and I never saw that in myself, but you all did. And I honestly, if you had said there were a couple of options, one would be entering a competition and all that that entails as one choice, or being an astronaut, let's say. I probably at the time would have said, well, there's probably a likelihood more so that I'd become an astronaut at that age, somehow, some way, than standing on a stage in front of hundreds of people and going through a competition routine. I mean, I literally thought it was to that degree impossible for me to even kind of go there and even think about that. But it did get me thinking, and I was intrigued, and I knew that others at that gym had done that. So anyway, that was the starting point. It was also hard to imagine because I'm a very private person and a modest person. I wouldn't even walk around in my house without my shirt on. And so again, the idea of being in front of hundreds of people, being judged in a Speedo, going through a routine that you're required to do was a stretch, to say the least.
Yeah.
Um, so that was the starting point. But it was a long road, and it involved a lot, and that was just the beginning, of that. We did some things like some challenges, and it was over many months and starts and stops and so on. But I finally did get to the point where I thought, okay, I want to continue to make progress. I began to believe in myself more, thanks to your coaching and your belief in me and support. And I like a challenge. So eventually I threw my hat in the ring, and I thought, okay, I'll try this. I knew that it would take me to a higher level. And I guess part of it was I was afraid of stopping the progress that I was making. I wanted to continue that progress, and I knew that would be kind of the pinnacle of that progress if you're ever to hope to even get to that point. So I began to, see that as a possibility, to picture that as a possibility. And then, like I said, I bought in and I decided that that's what I was going to do. And then when I decided that, I committed 100% to that, because you really have to. You can't enter a contest and not give it your all. So, and I was willing to do that. So I started doing whatever it took, really. I cleared my calendar. I made myself a priority. I changed my lifestyle every day, whatever it would take. I also kind of put the word out to people around me because I wanted it to be publicly known. I think sometimes we keep our battles private or even our goals private, and sometimes it might help to share those. It makes us accountable. Certainly, I didn't want to fail, and you don't want to fail publicly. So for me, it motivated me to tell my friends and the people in my world that, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to enter this contest, and here's what it's all about. I'm sure some people questioned me or wondered,
Hmm.
but I was okay with that. I think you just have to accept some of that in your pursuit, of your own health goals and whatever that path or journey is that you decide to. So anyway, so that's how I started, and once I got committed, then it took a long time, as you know. You were involved every step of the way and everybody that was involved in that, but it took a lot. But everything from nutrition to exercise to, your time and priorities. And I mean, it's obviously a lot. And it took me, well over a year from kind of even that starting point to actually standing there on stage. So
Yeah. And what do you think it was like? What was so euphoric about it for you?
I think at the end, of the day, when I was done with my routine on the stage at the competition, I felt like for the first time in my life that I had given it 100%. It's easy to talk about giving something 100%, but this made me realize I didn't think I'd ever given anything in my life 100%. I might have talked about it. I might have gotten maybe somewhat close in a general sense. But I
Hmm.
truly, honestly felt that at that point, I had given it 100% because it was every day, every week, every month, and sacrificing, and it wasn't easy. And that's a long story in and of itself. But I think that's what led to that feeling was, hey, you've really done something. You've climbed a mountain and now you're at the top of this mountain. And I didn't even really expect that. I didn't anticipate that. Nobody had really, I don't even think, mentioned that. But I remember standing there as if it was yesterday, even though it was almost 20 years ago. And I've never felt a sense of just accomplishment, almost a euphoric feeling in that moment.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe almost because a lot of it is just an intense feeling, but
Mhm.
I had never experienced that before. And I've never honestly experienced that since because I've never undertaken anything probably to that difficulty that required that much and starting from the point where I was at essentially zero to get to that point.
Yeah. Huge accomplishment. Yeah. I was I'm still proud of you. I'm proud to the fact that 20 years later you are still fit and healthy. Like I have no doubt in another 30 years, if we did this again, you'd still be telling us, your routine and what you're up to. And
Yeah,
it
I just
makes
don't know
me
if they have a
extremely
category
proud.
for me now. Before it was the lightweight novice, over age, what have you category, but now it'd be the, yeah, I don't think they have a category for me.
Uh, for sure they do.
If they did, I might give it a shot. Maybe.
Why not?
I do think, though, that when you have that experience, it does give you confidence and help you with other things that carry through in your life. Because I think when you set out to do something you don't think is even possible, it opens up a lot of avenues and venues that can spill over, carry over, and take you to different places in your life. Whatever that is, it doesn't have to be a competition, obviously. So for anybody listening to this, I would certainly, share that. But I think even in my own personal experience, in my own personal life, having that background, having that experience did carry over into other parts of my life that I really know have made a dramatic difference, where I can say, hey, I wouldn't be where I am today professionally and personally and at a lot of different levels without that to fall back on, and for being able to draw upon that.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, I'm so happy that we're talking about your competition time, because I do think that, like you described, it is something that it's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. It is hard work, and you've got to be disciplined and dedicated to it. And you
Yeah.
did that. And I mean, you could look back and say you did that. You're not, later going, gosh, I wish I would have. You could say you did. Yeah.
No, it's true, and it's always something that no one can take away that you have, and even if it's just one time, like in my experience, that's something that you can carry with you for a lifetime and to fall back on. And so certainly, you know, to me, it made all of that sacrifice more than worthwhile. I would do it again in a heartbeat, as much as it entailed. But yeah, it was definitely a lot. It had a lot of moments when you're pushed to your limit and beyond regularly. That's where it day in and day out, and it'll do that to you, as you know, having been through it yourself.
You're a financial planner and a numbers guy. I remember you used to make graphs and create point systems for your nutrition and your workouts. How did the analytical mind actually help you take ownership of your own health?
Well, I guess everybody's motivated differently, and I think the challenge is everybody finding what motivates them, because not everybody, like I said, is going to be motivated by the same thing. So really, for me, I had to find what's going to motivate me in this new kind of arena. And I had no really background in it. I had been an athlete growing up. I had never done strength training. I started from zero knowledge base and so on. So somehow, some way, I had to find a way to motivate myself in an arena that I was totally, where it was all brand new to me. So a lot of it was trial and error, education, and also taking in what I was being told and accepting that. Having to have an open mind and being willing to, hey, do what I'm told, showing up and going through the process and trusting that process. So a lot of it was that. And that sometimes isn't easy to do, but I went into it with that mindset of having an open mind, being committed, and working through that. Because to do that on my own, it wouldn't have happened. It would have taken how many years, because I was able to tap into people like yourself and others that it takes a lot of years and a lot of their own trial and error, a lot of their own education, a lot of their own training and expertise and qualifications. But for me, one of the things that motivated me that I found was just a lot of it came down to education and also a question of math. I mean, I found that, if I had a formula, if I tracked things, if I understood how it worked as far as calories, your macros, knowing your base metabolic rate, knowing what as far as your workouts and your routines and all of that. Once you had a lot of that data and some of the information, I found that, hey, some of this is math oriented and a formula. If I if I have a calorie deficit of 500 calories a day, if I do that for 7 days, I should lose a pound, as an example. And certainly you have to have the right nutrition, the right combination of macros and timing and when, and there are a lot of other factors that go into that. But I found that certainly part of it was this formula. If I just simply kept track of everything, which I did through my food diary and tracking my workouts and all those. So I began to quantify them. And so I track them daily, as far as everything from my weight to my activity level to my workouts. And I overlaid a system where I had as far as my activity level, overlaid that with my weight, my progress, my targets, my body mass, body fat, which we were monitoring regularly. And so when I saw that, for me, that motivated me because I can understand that process and I could see that there was a direct correlation and a tie-in to that. So for me, I just use that simply as a daily tool and a reminder and a way to track things. So that
Yeah.
helped.
That's
I
great.
kind of went overboard with it a little bit with all my graphs and charts and numbers and all that stuff. But hey, it helped me, and I found, and
It's
so
great.
everybody's got to find their own whatever that takes, I guess. So anyway.
Yeah, you could really get into like app design business and probably do pretty well. So fast forward nearly 20 years. You're 65 now. You've maintained your fitness all this time. What has been the key to staying consistent for almost 2 decades?
Well, I think for me, it's the thing that's helped me is good habits and kind of knowing what has worked for me and just trying to stay in touch with that. I have realistic goals, and certainly they're not as high as far as standards and setting the bar as they used to be, but so some of it is just the realization of being almost 65 and accepting that. And certainly my background has helped me with that, I believe, because I know that if I fall out of line with where ideally I want to be, let's say, whether it's with my weight or how I'm feeling about myself or looking and so on, which I probably definitely go overboard with, I guess, but it helps me because I know what to do if I backslide and not where I want to be within that certain range. So it helps to fall back on that. So that what that means is, hey, I just need to go back to some of the basics that worked for me in the past. I've even broken out, old journals, whether it's training journals, food diaries, and a lot of things. So if I just go back to that and some of the basics, I can reel myself in and get right back to where I want to be. So I think it's a combination of things. I think it's a combination of just habits, accepting my limitations, being realistic, and following certain general rules, I guess, of lifestyle, diet, exercise. I try to pace myself. I don't try to go overboard. For many years, even after my competition, if I look back on it, it continued, but it continued at a very high level for a lot of years. I will say that has paid dividends now that I'm 65, because I think if you're starting at an early age, and I wish I had started earlier, but if you commit yourself and you have a lot of time, whatever phase that is in somebody's life, whether it's when you're 30s or 50s, like when I started, let's say, I think down the road, when you're my age or in your 70s or even beyond, I think that it does pay dividends because I think you'll have better metabolism. I think, as far as your muscle mass, bone density, I think your overall health, your joints, I think, and so on. I think you'll just last longer and your abilities will be a lot more. So it definitely pays dividends. Like I said, I wish I'd started earlier, but my message is it's never too late. Like I said, when I came to you, I had never done really strength training. I'd done a lot of sports, but I'd fallen away from that and I just had zero background. So anyway, I'd say those are the kind of the key things that I feel like have carried with me off and on for the past 20 years that continue to still work and that I'm committed to still continuing to work down the road.
That's great. That's so great. That's so great. Okay. You told me that your main goal nowadays is simply not to hurt yourself. That's such an honest and wise answer for anyone over 50. What does your weekly workout routine look like at 65? And how has it changed from when you were 45?
Well, it is far different now. My current routine is dialed down quite a bit from the past, but it's realistic. It's one that I can maintain, and stay in the game, like I like to say. My goal is just not to hurt myself, and that carries through to other areas of my life. But yeah, because I want to stay in the game. I want to be able to still participate, want to be a spectator. And I have seen where people over the years, where if they haven't recognized that, they have taken themselves out or hurt themselves. And so I realized at some point that I just could not continue at a certain level of intensity, both and in time and so on. So my current workout regimen is fairly simple. It's practical. It's doable. I would say I average 3 to 4 days a week at the gym. And when I go to the gym, I don't work out as long. My typical workout now is about an hour. I do high intensity interval training. I do lighter weights. I focus much more on repetition, form, and I do more compound movements. So I don't do splits, for example. I don't do drop sets. I don't work out to failure. I don't push myself beyond limitations where I'm going to damage myself. So that's at least as far as the gym. I play golf a couple times a week. My main goal is just to stay active, to keep moving. I want to do that not just physically, but I want to do that also mentally, spiritually, and in all areas of my life. So I've really taken that philosophy, and I would say it's based on what we're talking about as far as the gym and working out. But it's filtered out throughout my life into other areas. And that's where I think it's not just about a competition. It's not just about the gym. It's you take what you're learning and what you're developing, and it will carry through and filter really throughout your life, as far as your relationships, your work, your friends, your family. So that's been my own experience in my own life. It opens up new paths for you that you might not even have thought possible or doable. As far as other things, I try to walk every day. So I've been committed to that, and I started that process, I would say, about 13 years ago. I just started walking after dinner.
Okay.
Usually around 8 o'clock at night, I just would put on my shoes and I would just start walking. And so I would listen to music, or I would just try to educate myself by listening to things, whether it was podcasts or books. Trying to expand my mind. It was a time where I could just set aside the day's craziness or what have you, and just have a quiet time and focus on kind of me, my health, being active, walking, setting aside time for me. So I got into this habit, and it was kind of like Forrest Gump, I guess. I just started walking, and I just kept walking, and I would walk no matter what. It didn't matter if it was raining. I've literally walked in pouring rain with an umbrella, in every kind of weather, although San Diego, we don't have to face too much of that, thank goodness. I'd even walk if my day got away from me and I'm walking at 8:30, 9:30 at night, because I got to get my walk in, during the day at some point. So I was making it a priority. I think I calculated I've walked across the country 7 or 8 times now. So it adds up
Love it.
into, a lot, but that's like anything. It's just a commitment to little things every day adds up. Even
Yeah.
when I thought about, I've walked across the country 7 times. If you told me that at the beginning, I might not have started, but I thought,
Right.
okay, I can walk tonight. I can go walk for half an hour, or just get started, or just go outside. Starting with that, things are a lot simpler. So like a lot of things, if you're lost and you can't picture where you're headed, you have to start somewhere. They always say a 1,000-mile journey starts with one step. So literally that was that. So anyway, that's one thing that helps me. I mean, in walking, there's a lot to be said for it. Sounds like a simple thing, but combined with other things, other exercise, I think that's what's enabled me to continue to maintain, which is my goal. My main objective is maintenance. So not hurt myself, take myself out, and I want to maintain a certain level of fitness and energy and so on. Nutrition-wise, I would say I follow the 80-20 rule, is what I've over time kind of developed, works for me as far as maintenance. So I find it works. To me, 80% is where, hey, 80% of the time, I'm pretty much spot on. My nutrition is good. My meals are good. A lot of them are healthy meals, prepared properly, and so on. It allows me to live my life and I don't have to worry about the other 20%.
Right.
So the other 20% means that I can go out with my family. I can go out with Tracy. I can enjoy my life, go out with my clients. I can go out on vacation. I can enjoy going to a happy hour, let's say, or a nice restaurant. And I don't have to really worry about it. And of course, in training, verbiage, having a cheat day.
Yeah.
Those were some of my favorite days. We live for those. But so it falls in the realm of that. But I think you really have to have that because you really can't realistically perform at a very high level every day, all the time for a lifetime. That I think somebody would set themselves up for failure.
Yeah.
And I think probably in my past, I was more like that because I was either really good or really bad. And if I couldn't be really good, I would just kind of throw in the towel
Mm.
and just kind of give up, you see? And that was
Okay.
kind of my experience as I go back in my life and kind of try to understand myself and where I was from and where I'd been and where I wanted to go. But that wasn't a very healthy outlook. You really can't have this extreme viewpoint of black or white. Either I'm really on board or I'm really, off the wagon or out of line or not. Yeah. So that wasn't obviously working for me. So that's why that 80-20 is, I think, a good mixture and a good blend. And it just seems to work for me. So.
Yeah.
And some of the habits that I developed that started really with that and with you, I mean, I still do this day. I still have my protein shakes, my perfect food bars. I track
I
those
love
down, I
those.
find them. And my supplements, I still take those every day. I try to manage my stress. The other thing that has helped me is in my career, it's fairly desk bound. You kind of see here. And so that's another reason why it helped to get out and do something. You can't just be desk bound. You've got to get up and out and move. And that's what I found. So, yeah, so I have literally for 20 years, those habits daily have carried over with me. I still do my blood work regularly and have a good baseline. I have a lot of years of data and records, and I can compare that. I just literally yesterday had my annual physical. I think when I first met you, I hadn't had a physical in, it was probably 10 years because I never wanted to go to the doctor. I was operating in ignorance, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and just leave everything to be alone. And that's not healthy or good. So that went way out the window. So I am much better about monitoring and being proactive, being involved, and doing things like my blood work and so on, and tracking things to make sure that I'm still on a certain path, you see? So those are some of the things that I still do.
I love it. So good. You're a big believer in the 80-20 rule with nutrition. After all these years, how do you handle the times when life gets messy and you get off track?
Well, I think some of it is just the acceptance of failure and not trying to be perfect. Because I've learned that you really can't have success without failure along the way. And almost anybody who's had any level of success has had more failures than successes. The hard thing for me was before, I think, probably not accepting that and trying to be perfect. And if I can't be perfect, then yeah. So for me, it's, I guess, as I get older, maybe learning and wisdom and other things probably tossed in there, and acceptance of oneself. And so I guess it's a change of attitude, really, and how I kind of approach things. And I think some of it has to do with just understanding, I think today at 65, I'm in better shape than I was 20 or 30 years ago. I know I am. Some of the things that I could do back then, I can't do now. But I think overall, my health is better. But I also feel like because of my past and some of these experiences that we're talking about, I feel like I understand myself better, that I'm a better person, that I'm a better human being, that I'm a better husband, that I'm a better family member, that I'm a better friend, that I'm a better business person. And a lot of that just simply had to do, I think, with really the willingness to dig in and kind of, I don't know how else to term it, but just I had to start over again at a very base level and kind of tear myself apart to become a new person.
Yeah.
And I was willing to do that because I did not want to be the same person that I was. And I just don't think you can do that if you're not willing to go there. So it's a combination of desire, willingness, commitment, and being okay with that process and sharing that and putting that out to the world. But the rewards of doing that, I would say you can't put a price tag on. You can't even value things like that because it also leads to things that are more important to you in the long run. And that would be relationships, the people around you, the level of happiness that you achieve, the level of contentment, and the level of peace that you can achieve. There totally, but I'm working towards it and I'm better. So it's progress, not perfection. It's improvement and it's getting somewhere. But I honestly don't know that any of what I've just said, I would have really been able to say or achieve if I hadn't have met you 20 years ago and started down that path. And I think I shared with you prior that I honestly don't know where I would be if I hadn't have done that, but I know it wouldn't be in as good a place. It would be a dramatically worse place if I were still around. Yeah, I was not in a good place in a lot of ways. So
Yeah.
it's great to be able to 20 years later, I think, and this is a nice opportunity to be able to share that with you and some of
Mhm.
the other people that might be listening to this, and hopefully they can maybe relate to some of the things that I'm saying and possibly learn from it too, from maybe my own experience and my message.
Yeah. Ah, it's so powerful, everything you're saying. Like, honestly, preach it, Scott. Preach it. It's so good. So good. Okay. You take a 45-minute walk every single night after dinner. That's such a simple habit, but you've stuck with it. Why do you think one habit has been so powerful for you?
Well, I think it's like any good habit. I think any good habit takes time. I think that anything worthwhile has a price to pay. If it's something worth achieving, it doesn't come easily and it's not handed to you. And I think that for me, at least, that's what it takes to motivate me and to take action. Because I was lost and I couldn't picture where I wanted to go, I had an idea, but it was very vague, you see. So for me, I think when you develop good habits, it's easier to follow through. You're more consistent. And then it also has, I think, long-term benefits as opposed to short-lived benefits. Part of me also is motivated by fear. I mentioned earlier, everybody's got to find their own thing that motivates them. And honestly, as far as myself, what part of what motivated me was a fear of where I was and where I was headed. And also, as time went on and I made progress, I had fear of losing that, to going back to where I was.
Mhm.
I never wanted to go back to be the person that I was and where I was. Even though from appearance sake, a lot of people would have said, hey, Scott's doing okay. But I knew in my heart of hearts that I wasn't where I wanted to be because I've always had high standards. I've always wanted to be better and I've always wanted to improve my lot in life. So anyway, I would say those habits, have just helped me to carry on and to maintain and not fall back because that's just something that I did not want to do. So that's part of what keeps me, I guess, going.
Yeah.
So it's probably a combination of things. I still have goals and I still am working on improving myself and bettering myself in all these areas. So I just keep kind of chipping away at it. One of the things that brings me peace is something that over many years I've learned, and that is every day I just simply look back on the day and I try to figure out what is even one thing that's moved me forward in my life, that's made me a better person that I've accomplished, even if it's just something simple. Usually I can find at least one thing, even if it's trivial. It's almost my last thought at the end of the day. So I go to sleep uh, uh, easily, peaceful, content. I think that helps me though. I
Hmm.
always look to the next day as a day of a new beginning. And so if even if I have had times where I don't feel like I'm at the level that I want to, or if I've had a failure or a setback or backslid for whatever reason, that was yesterday. And I always feel like tomorrow is a new day. I have a blank slate and I can be better tomorrow. And I give myself the grace to start anew with that day, with the next sunrise. And that's what enables me to be at peace with myself. It also gives me the hope and excitement of each new day,
Yeah.
uh, and not to fall into a rut, and to let the past go. And going back to wisdom and being 65, letting the past go, not being judgmental, not being our own harshest critic, because I was. I've definitely learned, not to fall into that trap, which is easily fallen into.
Yeah. Oh, it's so inspiring, Scott. Like, honestly, it's going to help so many people. That's so great. Yeah, so great.
I hope so. I'm happy that we reconnected. You reached out to me. I'm happy to be part of this community, and my hope is that maybe my story does resonate with some people out there, and maybe in some small way help them from wherever they are in their own life and whatever they're trying to accomplish. That's what I hope for.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. You talked about not seeking perfection. For someone watching who feels like they failed 100 times before, what would you say to them about starting again?
I would say hope, and just if you fall down, just get back up on that horse. I've been there so many times. We all have. And it's easy to throw in the towel sometimes, or just dwell on that, or let it take over. So what's helped me, at least in my own life, is just starting each day anew, and look to the future, hopefully, hopefully, and as trying to make improvements and making things better. So I just think that is part of life, you see, and it's just part of accepting that hey, we've all been there and we will be there too. I think it's just part of the process of life. I know that at this stage of my life right now, I have even more responsibilities in many ways at this age of my life, whether it's with family members or my business and a lot of things. And so so yes, a lot different responsibilities, and we will at some point have trials and tribulations, and things won't go our way. I think if you accept that and know that, and you trust that you will get through those things, and whatever it takes to get you through those things. And that could be it could be, hey, I can address it by going to the gym. I can start I can improve my diet tomorrow. I can take some time out for myself, whether it's meditation, going for a walk, going to the beach, or it can also be a spiritual quest, whatever that spiritual quest will be. Uh, and finding that meaning in life that I think we're all searching for. But I think at the end of the day, it's finding peace. For me, I've always had such a high bar and set sometimes crazy goals that were, even now in hindsight, unrealistic goals, unachievable goals, which doesn't do anybody any good. My goal now is peace, seeking peace and trying to find peace, and what I can do for that.
Mm,
And so if we don't, if we're not able to accept where we are and where we've been, it's tough to find that peace.
so true. Oh, yeah, that's fantastic. You've been married to Tracy for 8 years now. How has staying fit and healthy impacted your relationship? And do you two work out and stay active together?
Yep, thanks for asking. And well, it's been just really one of the great blessings of my life, and also motivational in so many ways. She's 8 years younger. So part of my motivation is I need to be around and healthy and happy as long as I can because I want to share that time with her. And she is 8 years younger. So that definitely is part of my motivation. She joins me on most of our walks almost every night. And so I know for her, that's definitely something that is a new part of her life since she met me. And when I was thinking about even today and some of the things that we were talking about, I was thinking back to when I first met her. One of our first dates, and the first time I cooked for her, I had her over at my place, and I cooked her a turkey bowl. Which is one of the staples of my workout and nutrition and that life, and that has continued. That was even my lunch today. But, obviously looking back on that, early dating, probably not maybe the ideal type of dinner to cook for somebody. But I think at least she knew I was trying, and she knew what she was maybe getting into as far as who I was. And I was being authentic too, as far as this is who I am and so on. So I think some of the things, it's being a good example. And I've tried to be a good example for her. And I would say to anybody, one of the things is if you want to affect change, whether it's a spouse, kids, grandkids, anybody, I think first start from within, and be a good example. Because I think that probably motivates more than anything else, because we can all say things. We all hear about talk the talk, but you got to walk the talk.
Mhm.
And I try to walk the talk. But I do think that if we set a good example, that will in and of itself motivate people. Because I think people sense when somebody lives their life by an example, whether it's how they come across, how they look, how they interact with others, the habits that they see in that person, and how they're actually living their life on a day-to-day basis. How do they spend their time and so on? So I've tried to be a good example for her. I know that some of those things have certainly rubbed off on her and affected her in a positive way. So we both try to stay active. We go to the gym together occasionally. I've encouraged her. Even for the first time in the very recent past, she's even gone to the gym by herself, which is a monumental achievement because she would have not done that in the past, gone to the gym by herself, let's say. So obviously she is looking at things differently.
Mhm.
So I do think that's having some of an impact, and I know it certainly leads to, the part of the level of our happiness and being together, and also with the goal of having as many great, happy years as possible. I mean, that is going back to part of that motivation, especially for me.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Okay. And finally, you learned how to be accountable to yourself and to self motivate all those years ago. So I have to ask, what does fun to be fit over 50 mean to you?
I would say the thing that it means to me when I hear that is that it's never too late. And that I think, especially in an age where people are living longer than ever before, it's a more critical message for everybody. Because just because you're living longer doesn't mean you're living better. And there's a big difference. And I think my goal is I want to not just live life, but I want to be actively engaged in life. I want to be able to do the things that I want to do that bring me joy and happiness and fulfillment that are meaningful to me. I want to be able to work as long as I can. I want to maintain my physical self, but I also want to maintain my mental self. And there is just no doubt that your physical self has an impact on your mind. And it's all interconnected. And so all the things that we're talking about add up. So that's how I would answer that. To me, it's just simply the message of whatever age or stage in life, whether that person is 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, or even 80. I talked to my mom this morning. She just turned 88 last weekend. And I
Wow.
talked to her and I asked her what she's doing. And she said, well, I'm out walking with my friend. And
Oh,
so even if it's just something simple, so I guess it runs in the family.
yeah,
This walking idea. But there's an example at 88 even. So that's how I look at it.
that's fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this. Amount of wisdom. The whole time, because I've been doing this editing thing this is now my 11th video that I'll be editing. I hear all these little clips that I'm like, oh, this is going to be a great clip to motivate people, like just a little quick one. So there are tons. There are so many.
Okay, enough
So
clips
many.
and sound bites to work with, hopefully.
You're going to be all over the internet.
Well, no,
I
I've
love it.
enjoyed it, and I really have. It's been fun for me. It's been good for me, and it brought back a lot of great memories. And it's great to reconnect with you, and it's nice to go back and share, giving you credit for really a lot of things over the last 20 years. It's always interesting to reconnect and go back over the years. You know, you don't quite know how things go, because you can never plot them, you can never map it out, and it's always interesting to see how you get from point A to point Z.
Yeah. And I know that, you started with me years ago, but I know that your journey, you did a lot on your own. You did
Yeah,
some other trainers and stuff. Like,
yeah,
I mean, just kudos to you for valuing yourself enough back then to actually take the time for yourself.
yeah.
And
Thank
then
you.
now to like what I've been hearing you say is like, I can hear the value that you see in yourself, and that you share that. I mean, I feel motivated by what you've said, and because I can see that you value it, and
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
just
good.
love it. Love it.
Well, well, good. I appreciate that. I appreciate you, and you're doing a great job. This is a great thing you're doing. I wish you the best of luck in it. Glad to be a part of it. I hope this helps in a small way. And you're amazing. The thing I always thought about you when again, this makes you think about things because I did put myself back in time, but I always knew that you were somebody that really cared, and you were very authentic and real, and that
Oh,
resonated with me, and you're still that way to this day. I sense that in you, and I always have. It doesn't
thank
take
you.
long around you to really pick up on that. And I think most people, that goes a long, long way. It does with me. I think people can sense that you care about them,
Mhm.
and certainly you do. You care about your clients and your friends. You care about yourself, and that's why you've done so well. And it's great to see your journey too. So well done.
It's like a little love fest. I love it.
I
Thank you so much, Scott.
hope that was on tape because then you could put that in there.
I just might.
Before we go, I want to share something important. This podcast is all about sharing real life experiences, insights, and inspiration. But it's not a substitute for professional medical advice. I'm your cheerleader and fellow traveler on this journey, not your doctor. Everyone's body is different. What works for me or my guest might not be right for you. So please always check with your healthcare provider before starting any new fitness routine, changing up your eating habits, or trying something new. You know your body best, and partnering with a good doctor is part of taking care of that beautiful body of yours. This show is for educational and informational purposes only. By listening, you agree that you're ultimately responsible for your own health decisions. Now go out there and have some fun being fit.